and welcome back to Chelsea Story Nook Podcast. I'm your host, Chelsea Kim, your homeroom teacher for turning shy voices into confident leaders. Here we unpack personal journeys, life lessons, and the mindset shifts that move us from shy to shine. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Jenna Lee Kim, served as the first female mayor of the Royalsford, Pennsylvania, 2018 to 2023, and now offers virtual workshops, one-on-one advising for transracial adoptees or their parents and speaking engagement on their inter-countries adoptions and identities. Let us welcome to the show, Jenna Lee Kim. Woo! Let's
Hi,
hear the crowd
Chelsea.
shouting. Yay! We are so excited, Jenna. I am so thrilled that you are on my podcast.
Oh, I am so happy to be here. When I received your message, it was like Christmas. It's so wonderful. Your energy is
Oh,
fantastic. I love what you're doing. I love your mission, and I cannot wait to get my hands on your book. I will get it as soon as I get back to the States this summer.
oh my God, I'm so honored. Start with a quick snapshot of how will you introduce yourself to our listeners, a little short bio.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm so thrilled to be acquainted with all of you. The world is so small and technology is so powerful. I do feel like we're meeting. We're meeting right now in real time. So I'm Jenna Lee Kim, as Chelsea said, a transnational, transracial adoptee that grew up in Pennsylvania in the United States, but I was born in Mokpo, Korea, and I'm currently living in Jeju-do, the largest island off the coast of Korea. And I've been here since the summer of 2023, exactly 1 year after I a little bit unexpectedly came into reunion with my appa, my birth father. And since then, I've met my ama, all my aunts and uncles and cousins. And so it's one huge Korean family. And I moved over here with my young family. So I have two kids. And I'm a writer, I'm a podcaster, I'm aspiring to do similar things as Chelsea and just spread the love in the community, whether it's the Korean American community, Asian American community, adoptee community, domestically at home or across the world. And it has been a real joy to make these connections. And that's how we found each other, right? We found through the power of social media and the internet. So it's fantastic.
What inspired you to throw your hat in the ring and run for mayor? Let's talk about that.
I know. So this is a small town, and you said it perfectly. Royersford, Pennsylvania, which is a suburb of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania. And
Yes.
just a little tiny lesson for your listeners. There's almost 1,000 mayors in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania because
Mm,
each borough or city, is a government structure in and of itself. So there are some, I think the smallest borough is like 60 people. There are boroughs in central Pennsylvania that are 600 people, and they have their own mayor, council, public works department, parks and rec, you know, and these small towns, I just think are the lifeblood of America. I really do.
mm,
I mean, everything that you see in all of the shows about small towns that are really quirky with different unique events and people and business,
mhm,
it's all true. When you're in
mhm.
government and you watch these shows that are supposed to be a little bit tongue in cheek, maybe a little bit of a parody, no, it's all true. The people, the
Mhm.
characters, all the things. And so after the 2016 election in my county, Montgomery County in Pennsylvania, there was, unbeknownst to me, a little bit of a wide sweeping call to action, either personally and just by chance.
Mhm.
Long story short, there were, I think, 10 of us who ran for mayor in
Mm.
2017. And we had across the spectrum of races, gender identities, and sexual orientations, ages, life experiences. It
Mhm.
was pretty cool. And we became a little cohort in and of ourselves. And we
Mhm.
started just really putting out there what it means to be a mayor of a small town. And it is not someone with a top hat necessarily who's lived there their whole lives, right?
Mhm.
It's people who want to really be involved with the community. And so I was a stay-at-home mom at the time with my two young kids.
Mhm.
was actually my partner at the time who saw an advertisement on social media and said they're looking for someone to be on the Parks and Recreation department. And we love the show Parks and Recreation. And I thought, oh, it'll be just
Gosh.
like that. And I can help plan events. So I went and I was
Mhm.
exactly like that. I mean, this is my how I am. I love people. I love meeting new people. And so when
Mhm.
I went to quote interview for this Parks and Recreation job, volunteer position, the council members at the time said, oh, I wonder if this is someone who would be interested in running for our town mayor. I mean, I had public
Mhm.
safety experience. I was in higher education for a long time, doing risk management, throwing events, being a community developer. In a lot of ways, this was the perfect job for me. And I was looking for ways to be connected in the community and
Mhm.
went for it. I said yes, and all my
Wow.
friends laughed at me. Like, Jenna, who asks someone you want to run for mayor? And if anybody ever asks you, do you want to run for mayor? I mean, you should be a little skeptical because, like, why are they asking? But you should also take it with a healthy dose of,
Mhm.
you know, optimism and say yes.
Yeah.
Because when someone offers you an opportunity, I always say that, and this has been all the things that I've done in my life, really.
Mhm.
I recognize fully that people have far more life experience than me. They are the subject matter experts in what they do.
Mhm.
And if somebody is saying to me, we think you'd be good at this, just because I haven't done it before doesn't mean that I shouldn't at least think about it because I trust this
Yeah.
person offering it to me that they know what
Mhm.
they're talking about. Now, of course,
Mhm.
healthy dose of skepticism, but
Yeah.
it's sort of how I live my life, and it's sort of how I have had every professional experience I've ever had, including this one. So that's how it happened, and I ran and I beat the incumbent, and I ran again unopposed 4 years later. And actually, it's so funny because this year would be the year I would be running for a third term if I hadn't vacated the office to move to Korea. I would definitely still be doing it if I still lived in Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow. So let us walk through this whole campaign journey and inside tips for someone who's thinking like, maybe, let's just maybe, how could I be a mayor one day? Let's just maybe. One of your friends probably, or one of your family members. Let's just say a little, maybe one of my students, maybe could I be a mayor one day?
That it is so important to me. I learned so many things in this process: life skills, how the world works, politics, small town things, relationships, connections. But understanding, I would go to Boy Scout and Girl Scout and sports events and introduce myself as the mayor. And little children, so young, would see me and be so surprised. Now, these are little people who don't have a lot of things that they've been through. And for them to
Mhm.
already have a perception of what a mayor looks like, and it's not me, would strike me every time. And so I would do a little civics lesson depending on the age group, but I really wanted to say, especially to the young girls, this is not something that you should put out of your mind as
Mhm.
this is not impossible. This is something that is easily
Love
attainable
that.
for you
Mhm.
to do, as is anything that you want to do. And this is not trying to say, oh, you can, if you can build it, you can dream it, right? This is, let's not discount things in our lives as possibilities just because we don't see ourselves in those roles or we don't see other people who look like us in those roles. It's
I
fine if you want
love
to
that.
discount it for any other reason, but not because you think you can't, right? So,
Yeah.
so the first thing that I would do, and this is the unfortunate part, and I will say, this sounds a little bit cheesy, but I do think the people who do the best in politics are the people who don't really like politics. If you get into
Interesting.
politics, yeah, if you get into
Mhm.
politics because you're like, I want to play politics, those folks are going to be successful in a different kind of way. And
Mm.
I know it sounds very earnest, but sincerely,
Mm.
I got into politics because I wanted to do right by my town. I
Mm.
didn't care, necessarily which party I was in or any of that. And
Mm.
honestly, when it comes to small towns in particular, it doesn't matter what box you check on a piece of paper. People want to know, do you care about my business? Are you going to promote
Wow.
me? Are you going to come to my
Yes.
small town church
Ah,
service? Are you going
wow.
to help fix my roads? Are you going to plan an event that's
Interesting.
inclusive for me? That's what people care about. And so all of this red, blue, purple is really, really difficult because I understand it has a place. I understand why the political system is set up the way it is. But what's interesting is that all of the terminology you use
Mhm.
for the presidential elections is still all the same stuff. Like we're on the campaign trail.
Yeah.
Our my borough was 9/10 of a mile, but hey, I was on the campaign trail. And so what you want to do is you want to start going to your town things, making sure people understand where you are, being consistent, putting yourself out there in whatever is the culture of your town. Maybe the culture of your town isn't social media. Maybe they have a hub
Mhm.
they go to and getting to know the first
Oh.
responders, getting to know the leaders in the town. There's always an unofficial mayor, right? It's maybe
Oh,
the
yeah.
owner of the bar who's been there forever. It's maybe the one pastor who is the third generation pastor in town. There's always somebody that people kind of look to. They're not officially in politics, but they
Mhm.
kind of are. I mean, you want to get to know people and people see you face to face and you can say, here's why I want to do this. It's not for political gain. It's because I
Mhm.
truly want to help this town and here's my vision. And I think you're either authentic in that or you're not, and people see it. And so
Mhm.
I didn't know if I had a chance at all to run. I mean, there's some things you have to do. You should go to your
The
party county
uh-huh.
meeting. You should try to get an endorsement.
Mhm.
You don't have to fundraise. You don't have to do all of that. There's a lot of technical things wrapped up in doing that. You really can just go to door and say, "Hi, my name is Jenna. I'm running for mayor. Will you vote for me?"
Interesting.
And I do
Mhm.
like that about it. I do like that about our political system. Really, anybody can. And even if you don't campaign ahead of time, you can do a write-in
Mhm.
campaign. And that's 10 people writing your name in a small borough. 10. No,
Mm.
it depends on the position. But for a small town
Yeah.
mayor or council or school board, sometimes it's like 10 or 20. I mean, you have to look into it. But
Mhm.
really anybody can do it. And it just
Mhm.
takes persistence and consistency and heart. And so it's so easy to look things up on the internet. Every county in America is going to have a checklist of here are the things that you do to run for office. Here are the deadlines. Here's when you need to get your petition in. And again, even if you don't do that, you can stand outside the polls, hand out a flyer and say, "Hi, will you consider writing me in?" I mean, I don't know how successful that is because you haven't necessarily built the relationships, but that is one nice part about our political system. So again, it's just familiarizing yourself and putting yourself out there so people understand what you're really about.
Hey there, listeners. Before we go back to the podcast interview, if you love our podcast and want to reach out and engage audience, we got great news. We're now accepting brand deals, sponsorships, and promotion. Whether you're a brand looking to connect with passionate listeners or a business wanting to make an impact, we love to collaborate. Reach us out at chelseastorynook@gmail.com to discuss how we can feature your brand in our episodes. Let's create something amazing together. Now, back to the show. Wow, that's interesting. Just to add on to your input, for my students out there or for my young in generations out there, just to look up to you as a role model. I used to run a leadership program called ASB. A lot of my listeners probably was once in ASB or student body in their school leadership. I was used to be in ASB in high school and middle school and a little bit in college, but they don't necessarily call it as ASB. They used to call it as a student body or school council or whatever. And to run that, you have to be voted and a class vote or a school vote. Will you advise them to start in that way? Will you advise them if you're dreaming about becoming a mayor or a president or a vice president? Would that be a good start to do? Would you advise them
Oh,
for my young audience?
I think that is such a great question. And I was vice
Mhm.
president of my class when I was in high school
Oh, that's
as well.
cool.
But I didn't have any political aspirations back then either. It was just how can I, at
I
the time, it was
see.
how can
Interesting.
I, do things to show that I'm a leader in my community for college applications, right? But I
Yes.
think that certainly can't hurt.
Hmm.
But I will tell you that any organization that you're a part of at any age, but I
Hmm.
think what is most important, whether you do that or another organization, if you are a team captain, if you're the leader of a youth group, if you are organizing an event, if you're a mentor in a mentoring program, if you're doing things where you are managing conflict, understanding different personalities, understanding what risk means when it comes to risk reward. I could
Hmm.
say this statement that I really feel strongly about, but it could make other people angry. That's politics.
Hmm.
That happens, I think, more in some work spaces, in adult
Ah.
office spaces, than it does
Mm.
sometimes in actual council chambers when we're
Mm.
voting on things. I mean, I had more political situations happen to me when I was working at a university than I feel like I did when
Oh.
I was actually in the mayor's office. And so I think people really
Mm.
honing your skills for
Mm.
human interaction is
Mm.
so sometimes it just like everything else, it just takes practice. So students would, in scouts or classrooms would ask me, what's Mayor Jenna? What's the most difficult thing about being mayor?
Yes.
And the most difficult thing is when two people are looking at the same problem, but seeing it from totally different perspectives.
Ah.
And how do you help them understand that
Mm.
this tree root that's there that's impacting you, but not impacting you, and you love the tree, but you don't like the tree? How do you make both of those
Ah.
people that are like that only blown up when we're talking about family welfare and economics and helping people or health and safety? Gosh, that makes it really, really hard. And so, of course, I don't mean to diminish the political process because, of
Yes.
course, as the stakes get higher and suddenly you're a
Mm.
senator and making decisions about those types of big issues, then yes, of course, you have to be a little political and play the game and make sure that you're good at navigating those things. But that starts when you are a young person
Mm.
in your classroom, on the playground. Two
Yes.
people want the same ball or two people want to play with the same thing. How are you going to navigate that? And are you
Mm.
going to think about it in terms of, oh, just me, 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 me? Are you going to go the opposite way and never give your
Mm.
chance because you're constantly giving to other people? I mean, I think
Mm.
those are the real skills that we're not thinking about when we're 8 or 9 or 6, um, probably not even when we're 15 or 16, but we don't know it, but we're constantly
Interesting.
practicing those skills every
Mm.
single day. And so being
Mm.
aware of it and honing it will take you much further, in my opinion. In my opinion.
Every leader has the first aha moment. What was your big breakthrough as a mayor when you first felt that? The yes, this is working. Like, did you ever felt that? Like, wow, this is actually working. Did you felt that
Yes, I
ever?
did.
Like,
Well, there was the moment where I realized, oh, this is really serious. And I don't mean to say that I wasn't taking it seriously, but I kind
mhm.
of didn't know what I was getting into. I really
Mm.
didn't. I didn't know anything about how to run for public office. I didn't know anything. I mean, I knew a little bit about how a council was structured and just a tiny bit, but mostly based on
Mm.
stereotypes. And there was a
Oh.
thought, oh my gosh, this really, if you want to do this well, this really is a full-time job. I what it clearly was not about the money. I made like $1,800 a year or something crazy as a stipend for going to council meeting. Yeah, it was not a paid position. This was all volunteer.
What?
So
Oh my
sometimes I would
gosh.
put in 25 hours a week, making a website, planning an event, going to meetings,
Wow.
going to public speaking engagements.
Mm.
Um, and I loved it because I got to go out of the house and
Mhm.
socialize and get to know people and felt like I was making a difference for folks in the community. But it certainly wasn't paid. And so there
Mhm.
was the moment where I realized, oh, this is so much work. And this is really very serious. I was sort of kind of doing like, yeah, sure, I'll run for mayor. And then I realized like, oh,
Yeah, it's like nothing.
how much of
It's
an
like a walk in
impact
the
it
park.
can can make, yeah, but it's like would we do the things over again if we knew what we were getting ourselves into? And I do believe that I did. I mean, half half the reason I'm in Korea is because of the connections and opportunities I made when I was in that office. And so I think the aha moments were when I was just doing things thinking no one was paying attention, but doing it because I just really wanted to. I mentioned the kindness event sort of as a joke, but I have a friend who is the mayor of the town next door. Her name is Mayor Stephanie. And she and I don't remember why we did this, but we decided to have an acts of kindness competition where
Hmm, I
people
love that.
would tag us on social media saying I did this nice thing for somebody, and then we got some sponsors, I think, and we did a drawing and gave out prizes. Nobody was doing it for the prizes, right?
Hmm.
But it actually made the front page of the paper, the local paper, like
Wow.
kindness initiative by Mayor Jenna and Mayor Steph. Like
I love that.
this feels really good. And so
Uh-huh.
you sort of find your niche in any job that you're doing. And my niche
Hmm.
was I want to be the kindness and mental health care advocate mayor. Because what I started to find was something that was there was so much that was combining and connecting all of us. And one
Hmm.
of it was just how pervasive mental health care concerns were in, well, the entire world, really, but in the community. And so, working with the local school district to do an event for parents and students, bringing in mental health care workers and organizations, learning about all the amazing organizations just in my community and county that focus on mental health care advocacy and offering support and resources, things that people didn't know existed. So, bringing that to the community. And so, when those things started to happen, and people were responding to me in a really quick, it was easy. When things started, it was just so easy. I thought, oh, something's going on here. Or as Koreans would say, oh, yeah, 맞아. Things are easy.
맞아.
Yeah, things are starting to be easy.
You
And that's when
say
I
it's
knew,
easy.
yeah. And that was the thing. People would say, like, so, I when I was pregnant with my daughter, I threw
Uh-huh.
a charity baby shower. I don't know what gave me,
Oh, interesting.
but I thought I'll have a come to Mayor Jenna's baby shower. And if you bring diapers and wipes, you'll get entered into a raffle. And I was like, well, I need to get some raffles. So I asked the businesses if you would like to contribute something for and then people did. And then people said, we'll donate food. And people said, we'll come from our massage parlor and give free back massages
Oh.
for moms and pregnant ladies who come. Um, we had organizations come and volunteer to take away the diaper. I said diapers and wipes because those things are not covered under WIC or other, or you can get baby formula if you're a family
Mhm.
struggling financially, but you can't get diapers and wipes. And so we had thousands of diapers and wipes come in and baby clothes and gift certificates and things that I sent
Wow.
right back out to women's shelters and local food pantries
Oh, I love
because
that.
not everybody can have not everybody has the resources to have a baby.
Yeah.
And it was so easy. I put the idea out there and I almost didn't even have to do anything. People just raised their hand and said, oh, we'll help, we'll contribute, we'll donate. So, and it was a great day. It was a great day. Um, and it's so when it starts to become easy is when you realize, oh, maybe there's something to this that I have a natural talent for something that is making it seem easy.
That's such an aha moment right there. That's like, yes, that is actually working.
Yeah,
You
and I will
realize
tell
that,
you, I
right?
mean, back to your question before, there was a moment in time in Korea where I found myself having to support myself. Like I have to support myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
thought, oh no, I'm in a foreign country. What am I good at? What do I like doing? And that is a
Yeah.
real moment where it's both an opportunity and
Mm-hmm.
it's super scary. It's like your
Yeah.
livelihood and survival depend on it. And then you have to really dig deep. Some people are lucky. Some people are really good at
Mhm.
math. Some people have a skill. Like
I don't
I
know how you did
I can
that.
work on cars. So I can go to a mechanic shop and say, I can work on cars, or I'm good at IT, or I don't have those
Whoa.
skills. And I'm currently in a place that I can't use a lot of my skills because I can't speak Korean. So communication is so difficult. And so, yeah, trying to lean on those aha moments and carry them
Mhm.
through life so that if you're in a jam, you can try to figure out how it's really important.
So winning an election is one thing, building real community backing is another. How did you rally support around that whole vision, that whole thing happened?
That's a great question. It happened very slowly. I was in office for about 6 years and I campaigned for
Oh.
a little less than one. And I remember when I had 600 followers on my Facebook page, and I was so
Mm,
excited, and it was more than just my closest friends and family.
that's a lot still. That's a lot.
Yeah, and it was nice because it was such a small town and I had
Uh-huh.
this really great, very privileged opportunity. I was staying home with my kids. And so, and I wanted, you want to get out of the house, especially if you're a very extroverted person who likes people like myself. And so I would walk around first with my son in a stroller, and we would go around to the businesses and we would go out to eat, and we would just, if there was an event happening, we could go, and so it was just little by little. And again, small town. And then the word would a little bit start to spread. And I will say, there is recognized, I can't say it any other way than privilege. If you are Mayor so and so, people want you at their thing because they want to be able to say, the mayor was here. And so it was a really interesting place for me to be, because I'm thinking, well, is the mayor it's just me, it's Jen, I'm coming, Jenna's going to be at the event. But to them it was like the office of the mayor, and so I had to sort of I had to get used to that,
You
because
should have a theme
even
song in the background.
yes, it was very funny. Even my friends would joke, my closest friends would joke with their kids like, oh, Mayor Jenna gave you this card or this Easter gift.
So funny. I
Yeah,
love
it
your
was,
friends.
yeah, no, I know, really, I have the best friends all over the world, literally. And so it happened really slowly. There's no other way to do it. It's relationship by relationship. It's connection by connection. Um, what's so funny? Back to your earlier question about an aha moment, I just thought of
Mhm.
this. There was a weird week where anxiety was very high. I don't know, something, maybe the full moon, I'm not sure. But I had three instances in a very short time where I heard through the grapevine that someone was quite rude. Like they would go into I don't know if maybe it was the same person, I'm not sure, but three different instances where there was a shop owner or a restaurant owner saying, like, this person came in, they were so rude and they were demanding things. And then they said, I'm friends with Mayor Jenna, so you should just do this for me.
Oh,
And two things. One is that the shop owners or whoever was reaching out to me said, we know you well enough to know that you would never do that. That's number one. And number
it's so
two,
funny.
I was thinking, well, somebody thinks that that's going to work for them. They're going to say, we know Mayor Jenna, so therefore I can do whatever I want. So
So
it was,
interesting.
it's a very interesting place to be. But yeah, it happens, to your current question, it happens really slowly. It's just, and that's the other thing I would say about, if you're trying to have your sights set on public office or whatever you do in life. I'm not saying you have to be a pushover. I'm not saying you have to give in to everyone, but you should always be kind to everyone. There is always a
Yes.
way. I've had some really challenging jobs in my profession,
Mm,
and there's always a way to say something to someone that is kind. Even if you're telling them that what they
I love
did was
that.
inappropriate or broke a
Mm,
law or whatever it happens to be, there's always a way to say it to someone where you're keeping their humanity and they really feel
mm,
that.
mm.
And so then that's how you, in my opinion, that's how you earn respect. When you're telling someone something that is really hard, but they still walk away feeling whole, that's where I think the skill set has to come from as we're
I like that.
going through our lives.
I really like that. And going to addition to that question, and once you
Hmm.
have that support, how did you nurture it throughout the whole term of that?
Hmm. Um, you know, I just I just really like relationships. I like people. I don't think everybody can say that, but I
Mm,
really do like people. I mean, I'm the person who will talk
You're like
on
a
the,
golden retriever.
yeah, I am. Like I'll talk on the
Love
phone to
that.
the Verizon customer service agent. They're a person too. They've probably been yelled at all
Oh my
day,
God.
and it's just one of those things. Um, but
So fun.
I think just meeting more and more people uh continue to, and you have to put in the work. I'll give you an example. The fire department are this was I'm not just saying this. The Royersford Borough Fire Department, top notch. They did so many community things. And again, they're volunteer. They're not getting paid. I mean, they have an EMS service connected to them as well. And so I guess, if you take the ambulance, you have to pay through your insurance to take the ambulance. But other than that, I mean, everything is grant based and they're doing fundraisers and just doing wonderful things in the community. And so they were great. But make no mistake about it, a fire department is a fraternity. They're a club. They're an organization. If you're on the in, you're on the in. If you're not on the in, you're not in the in. And I was not a firefighter. I'm not an emergency service provider, right? And so I had to work.
In and still listening to this podcast right now, what should they comment down below?
Their takeaway about what one really should be doing in high school if they really want to run for public office.
Take us behind the curtain. What was one tough challenge you faced that the public might not have seen, Jenna?
Oh, okay. Well, we had, like I mentioned before, some of you might remember we went through a global pandemic 5 years
Yeah.
ago already. Can you believe it?
It seems like it's been centuries ago. I
Yeah,
don't
in
even,
some ways it
long
seems
time
forever. In
ago.
other ways, it's like, oh my gosh, it's been 5 years. Um, that was a really hard time for the entire world.
Oh,
And
yes.
as we narrow it, if we zoom the focus in from an airplane view down to wherever each of us was living, life at least, in the very least, life looked really different. And what I started to notice, because I'm so intimately engaged with my community on social media, and you sort of understand what's the trends, what typically people will respond to and how they'll respond. I mean, you start to kind of understand group dynamics when you're in a social media space, as one example. Kind of like if you were at a baseball stadium, you know what's going to happen when someone hits a home run, right?
Mhm.
So what started to happen, and I had to really think about it, was that because folks were so anxious and they were so uncertain and they were so fearful, and that's when things started to become really difficult. And where did they have that outlet? Because they couldn't go to bars, they couldn't go to restaurants, they couldn't go to sporting events, they couldn't get together with friends. So all of that angst was coming out through social media.
Wow.
And so that was really a challenging time because I am a people pleaser. I do want people to walk away feeling whole. And there was just no way I could give answers that were adequate. There was no way that I could make folks feel better about certain things. There was only so much we could do. I mean, my friends who were planning events in town, we they were so creative. Let's chalk the walk. Let's go. If you're taking a walk outside, you know, write a kind message in chalk on your driveway so people can see. How can we how can we do things that feel safe, that feel community oriented when we can't be in person? And so all of that behind the scenes stuff was a lot of work and it was trying to be creative. I This is really ironic, but I had a health fair that I was going to have in the fire hall. And I think at that point, I think like 40 organizations at least were coming. At that point, I had had all these relationships with mental health organizations or facilities all around the county. Come set up a table. We'll do it in person because not every, well, we had to obviously cancel it because of COVID. It was so, again, everything was it was scheduled for like March of 2020. And so that
Oh
obviously was not
no.
happening. So I canceled it and then I put it online. I scheduled out every organization and a time and a schedule so that they would go live on Facebook so that you could tune in and watch them give their spiel and ask questions and whatever. So I think in the end, like 5,000 people had tuned into some portion of, because this was over like 2 weeks. It was every night for 2 weeks that I had 4 or 5 organizations that were going live. It was so much to coordinate, and it was so much to keep track of. It was keeping me busy and my mind focused on something. And I like a good
Mhm.
project and I like a good event, but I think people intellectually understood how much work was going in behind the scenes for things like that because they were doing it in their own jobs. I mean, everybody had to
Yes.
rearrange how they were doing things. So, of course, people, if you think about it, like, oh yeah, of course, that time would have been, all the madness.
Oh.
Have a council meeting
Mhm.
that's supposed to be open to the public, but also
Mhm.
secure, so no one's hacking it. We had one meeting. It was in April, I think. It was so cold. We're all like bundled up and we're in the main square parking lot right outside of Borough Hall. And all of us were standing like 20 feet apart, reading the agenda really loud and like having a public meeting outside. Oh my gosh, it was madness. It was madness. And I do think about sometimes I'm going to have to tell my kids because even though my daughter was not even one and my son was like 4, he doesn't remember. Like there's going to be a time where I know that when they're in middle school and high school, they're going to have a teacher who says,
Mhm.
interview someone in your life about what happened during the pandemic. And I'm ready. I'm ready for that assignment. I'm going to tell them all about it.
We're gonna be
Your
in the
mom,
history book.
yeah, your mom was the mayor of a small town, and here's all the stuff we had to do. And here, I mean, remember like all the signs in the grocery stores, like you can only go one
Yes.
way down the aisle, and you have to stand this far apart at the registers. And, you had to wear one. Just like, oh my gosh, it was madness. And I can't believe it was 5 years ago already. I mean, it's like a whole nother lifetime ago.
Oh my goodness. It seems short, but it seems like ages ago. I don't know why. It's a long
Yeah.
time ago.
I mean,
It
in that
seems a
time,
long
I
time
have
ago.
met my birth family, moved to Korea. So yeah, it feels like a long time.
Oh, we're gonna get to that story soon. If the timing and circumstances were just right, would you run for mayor again?
I would run for mayor again. I really would. I don't know that I would have the energy to rebuild myself in a new community, but if I could go back to Royersford, and the circumstances aligned where the current mayor, who's doing an excellent job, it's a little poetic because the current mayor took over when I left. She was formerly on council, and she is the one who interviewed me for that Parks and Recreation Commission position. And then she took my place when I left. So it was very poetic. Mayor Alex is doing a great job. If she decided, okay, I'm stepping down and the opportunity would be to run and I lived back there again, I think I would love to do it again. There
Amazing.
we had such a great team, again, and all of the organizations, council, borough administration, that in some ways it would be super easy because of that great team that's there. So yeah, I think I would do it again. I'm not sure that I would do it in any other town. I think knowing how much would go into it. Um, Getting very old now, Chelsea. I know I look much younger, but I'm, hitting that middle age. I'm starting to get tired.
And finally, what projects or passions are lighting up you these days?
Oh, thank you for asking that question. Um, like I said before, I've really had to do a lot of constructive work on myself and the deep work of therapy and understanding yourself and drinking enough water, getting enough sleep. I mean, these are all things that in our 20s we're like, we don't need to do that. But then it becomes quite necessary. And you don't know until you know. And I'm at a point in my life of knowing a couple things. One is that I don't know what I don't know. It's like I'm self aware enough to know, oh, I don't know everything. But the problem is, I still don't know the things that I don't know. So I'm in this like middle position. But what I'm getting closer to is understanding some of those passions, like you were talking about. And one of the things is that what's really bringing me a lot of joy and energy is along with connecting with other transracial, transnational adoptees, which all that means is that you were born in one country and you were adopted out to a different country, and your family that you grew up with is a different race than you are. That's what transracial means. Transnational means you live in a different country. And so these are a lot of pretty heavy topics, especially when you come into consciousness about how they might have impacted you in your life when no one was really talking about how they might have impacted your life when you were a kid. The good news is that parents now are my age, a little older, of kids who were like me when I was growing up. And they have access to social media in a way that my parents didn't when they were raising me. And so when parents or other adoptees reach out to me and say, I just really want someone to talk through some of this, because sometimes we just need simple validation. It's not simple, but basic validation. What you're going, hear someone else who understands you say, I know what you're going through. You're not crazy, and this is all normal, is so invaluable. And when I can have those conversations with folks, that's really exciting. So my plan, and I'm saying this out loud publicly, so you can hold me accountable. Hold me accountable. My
I'm holding you.
plan is to look into certified coaching programs so that I can do this. I mean, I'm already doing it, and I have professional advising experience. I mean, I was an advisor for college age students for 10 years, and I was doing lots of mediation when I was a mayor. But I want to be able to gain as many access, as many skills as I possibly can to do this really effectively for communities like mine. So that brings me a lot of joy. Writing brings me a lot of joy when I can put something out into the universe. And it's mostly for me, honestly, because I do just like writing. But if I can share it and people read it, and I'm always floored every time somebody reads something that I wrote, I go, wow, you actually read it. And they take the time in a busy world, because like we said before, you have to get their attention and then they have to care. And then they have to not have to, but then they take a moment to respond. Oh, I understand how much time and effort that takes. You noticed what I wrote. You read what I wrote. And then you replied with a comment? Really? I mean, right? Don't you feel that way anytime somebody
Yes.
reaches out to you about what you're doing? You're like, oh my gosh, you have so much going on in your life, and there's so much tweeting happening and YouTubing and news and life and jobs and kids, and you took the time out of your life to do this. It's amazing.
It's
So that brings
amazing.
me joy. And then last but not least, my kids bring me a lot of joy. They're experiencing Korea in a way that I never had an opportunity to do when I was their age. They don't get it now, and I fully recognize it. But I look to the future more than I should. But I hope that someday they understand it's just normal to sit around on the floor around a bapsang with kimchi and, delicious meats and sides, banchan with my appa, their halaboji and halmoni, and it won't be strange to them. It will just be normal. And that is something that means a lot to me to be able to do. And I know they don't appreciate it now. They miss America, but I hope that does bring me joy in those moments where I can see when I center myself and I'm in the present moment and I'm watching it happen. And they're seeing people that look like me and they look like them. That also brings me a lot of joy.
Thank you for tuning in today's episode of Chelsea Story Nook Podcast, Shy to Shine, your gateway to success. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, leave a review, and share this podcast with someone who could use a little inspiration. We love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let us know your biggest takeaway from today's episode. Until next time, keep growing, keep shining, and always remember your story is worth sharing. And let's carry it on.